There's no such thing as a small disaster. So when you call 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota, we come prepared to restore your life back to normal. From burst pipes to unexpected mold discoveries or fire damage, when things couldn't be worse, we come to you with our best. With empathy, local expertise, and a truck full of seriously powerful equipment. 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. Restoring what matters most. 701-670-2022.
Good morning and welcome to this Valley News Now weather update brought to you by 1-800-WATER-DAMAGE of North Dakota. I'm meteorologist Lisa Green here with a look at what we can expect today. And of course, you can see behind me a photo. This is an amazing photo from one of our viewers of the blood moon. Now that sounds so dramatic, but it's just a total lunar eclipse, but it's called a blood moon. That term has really taken hold because it sounds dramatic, and it kind of describes the colors that we end up seeing during a total eclipse, what the moon's coloring looks like. And so we're going to get into details on how that happens and show you some photos from you guys, because I know not everybody got to see it because of the clouds and the fog that we had this morning. That continues for some of us, that we'll also go over. So I want to go over that and then get into that forecast for the rest of the week this week. We're watching for fog. We've got some warmer weather, and then on top of that, we're watching for Friday. That could bring some interesting weather to the valley as we're rounding out the work week. So let's start up with this photo, this incredible photo here of the total lunar eclipse. And this was sent to us from Trevor. I'm not exactly sure where he was in the valley where he took this photo, but he says that this was just after max totality. So when the moon essentially was centered right in the Earth's shadow, you can still see some light getting to the moon, and we're going to talk about what that means here. So again, this is one of the amazing photos we've gotten. We had some of our folks in the Valley News Live team out reporting on a story that were outside and able to see the eclipse as it was going. So that was really cool. This was in the Fargo area, so it was just really great that the Fargo area was also able to see it. There were other spots in the valley that weren't, again, so unfortunately not everybody could, but we were able to get some video of it. So I want to show you the video that our viewers got to see when we shared it live from our camera while we were out reporting live on this. So this was, again, in Fargo, in South Fargo, I believe, is where our crew was at the time. Can kind of make out where that tree was in relation to it. You can see just a little bit of light there in this particular video, that and some clips that they're showing here. So that was one great shot, or several great shots from Austin Caruso, who was getting this photo along with Selah Jakeway, and they were out reporting on a story during the valley today. It was so incredible to be able to do this and talk about it as we were in the newscast. So again, just a great morning for weather nerds, science nerds, all of that here to talk about live as we were reporting on it. And we were following the moon getting into the Earth's shadow, really being centered in it, and then eventually moving out of Earth's shadow all throughout the valley today. So I want to show you some of the awesome pictures that we've gotten. So let's head to our website. This is the main page. We'll go to the weather page here. And if you've got some photos, we'd love to see them. You could upload them. And if you didn't get photos, this is where you can go to see what you missed out on, unfortunately, for those areas with the fog. So let's take a look at weather pictures here. And so this was our most recent picture that we've had approved here, and you could see that was just 5 minutes before max totality. Ashley sent us that photo. Several photos coming in from Brianna around 6 a.m. We were just exiting max totality. Peralta, also some great pictures there. Some really fun ones. This one I liked. Connie sent us this one from Lisbon. Nice clear sky there. You can see the stars as well. But I love the angle that she got here. It's kind of hard to see in this photo. Here we go. Almost looks like the star at the top of the Christmas tree, but instead it was the blood moon at the top of the Christmas tree. And then you can see that we're looking at more photos from that same area. Connie also showing this a photo of partial eclipse. Horace, another view of the partial eclipse from Megan. This is the photo I was showing you earlier from Trevor. He also had a picture of his camera. He was using a fancy camera. My iPhone does not do well with these kind of pictures. You really need a good phone camera or, you know, one of these fancier digital cameras to really get these kind of shots that he got in this photo. But even still, it's cool to capture them on your phones too, if you can. And this was from Julia. She took the picture of the full moon last night before the eclipse happened, nice and bright there. And then as it was developing, as we were into the blood moon, the total eclipse, and this was in Detroit Lakes again. And Barb sent us a photo of the partial eclipse going on there. And then just so many more photos, just really great shots and fun pictures. I'm so glad everybody was able to get out that could. I was really thinking there was a possibility that a lot of us would be stuck in fog, or we would have some, this is in Village Green, Richwood, Minnesota, that we would have so much cloud cover or fog that nobody would be able to see it. So I'm glad some of us were able to see it. Nice picture there. Nate, and again, there's so many of these. They're so awesome, and I could keep scrolling. There's another big one. Oh, this one was sent to us from Arizona. I actually got a couple of pictures from other parts of the country. This one from Arizona. Alvin says he's still watching. We had a picture from Florida, a video from Florida posted to my Facebook page. A picture from Texas as well on my Facebook page. So really appreciate everybody watching, even when you're not in town, when you're not in the Red River Valley, that you're still following and watching as well and sharing your experiences. And then this was last night's sunset. So really some great photos, and we're getting more in that we'll approve, and you can of course upload your photos that we'll continue to share. So that was the moon. I do want to talk about how this happens really quickly here in case you missed it or you're interested. We'll talk about the timeline that we saw here. So we'll pull this back up full screen. So what happens during a lunar eclipse, that's when the moon passes behind the Earth. So essentially, the Earth is blocking the sunlight from the moon. So the moon moves into Earth's shadow. And Earth's shadow is called the umbra. And then the Earth's partial shadow is called the penumbra. So let's move ahead. So here's the moon. And this is already happened for today, but we saw that partial eclipse begin very early this morning, about 2:45, 2:44 to be exact in Fargo. And then the partial eclipse began at 2:50 or 3:50 this morning. So we were tracking this during the valley today when it started at when we started the valley today at 4:30, the partial eclipse was already going. And then it passed completely into Earth's shadow by 5:04. And so throughout the 5 o'clock hour of the valley today, it being in Earth's shadow meant this is the time when we call it the blood moon because it starts to turn red when it's completely in Earth's shadow. And maximum eclipse happened at 5:33 this morning. And then the total eclipse was ending at about 6:02. So if you were up watching, you probably saw that little sliver of light start to show on the moon after the 6 o'clock hour. And then it moved into more partial eclipse again, and we watched it end. But the thing is we were lucky because parts of the East Coast didn't get to see the full eclipse because the moon was setting a little too early. We did get to see almost all of the process here from partial to partial. However, moonset happened at 7:06, and for some of us, if you've got trees and that sort of thing, it might have passed under the tree line even sooner than that, below the tree line, because the partial eclipse didn't end until 7:17 this morning. So the moon set before that partial eclipse ended, but we got to see the bulk of it, and especially that blood moon time, that full total eclipse during that 5 to 6 o'clock hour, essentially here in the valley. So that was the timeline of this. And let's talk about what happens in an eclipse a little bit more here. This is looking down on, so say you're looking down on the plane that the Earth is on as it rotates and revolves around the sun. So, you can see this area here. This is the part of the Earth that's facing the sun. So this is the day side, and then the night side of the Earth facing away from the sun. And so again, we're looking down at, this is essentially the North Pole. And then here's the moon. So the moon also has a day side and a night side as well, and that's what we get with our seasons. Or not our seasons, our moon phases. There we go. Sorry to confuse you guys. Okay, so let's talk about the sun's rays. They're hitting the Earth, and we're getting them directly into the atmosphere, but they're also kind of skimming over the atmosphere here on the edges. And all around. And the atmosphere, what it does is it tends to scatter away the shorter light wavelengths. So it scatters out the blue light, the UV light, those really short wavelengths. But it does allow the longer wavelengths to pass through. So the red wavelengths, the oranges. And that's why we get during the afternoons or nighttime and into the morning, why we get that orange glow with the sunrise and the sunset is because there's more atmosphere. When the sun's above, it's just shining down through this layer of atmosphere. But when it's at the edge of the Earth, both on the morning and afternoon or evening, as it's setting, the atmosphere is a lot thinner when it's going directly through it, but when it's going across it, it's not a flat plane, as we know. As it's going across the curve, it's trying to shine through more atmosphere. So it's more molecules for that light to try to shine through, and so more of that light gets scattered out. So that's why we see more of the blues get scattered away during those times of day because of the low sun angle. And we end up with the oranges and reds at sunrise and sunset. And so then when you got the sun shining through the cross section of the atmosphere like it is here as it's shining over it, that's when we see that same situation happen where all the blues get scattered out. So once we start to see, let me pull this back up so we can see it full screen a little bit better. So what happens as those the blue light gets scattered out, the red remains, and it basically is focused again into any object that passes behind the Earth. So let's see what happens here. You can see where the penumbra, the partial eclipse, and the umbra, the total eclipse, happens to be. And so as we put this into motion, here's the moon passing through the penumbra and then into the Earth's full shadow, and that's where you see that we end up in the red, in the area where only the red light is getting through on the very edges of the atmosphere for the moon, and that's why it turns red. And once it moves back into partial eclipse where it gets some of the sun's light, it goes back to the white light where we see it just kind of looks almost like a crescent moon at that point in time. So that's kind of how that works, essentially. That's why we have a blood moon during a total eclipse, because of the way the atmosphere scatters the sun's light, and then that light eventually reaches the moon, and that's the only light that does, is the light that's shining through the atmosphere. So basically all of the sunrises and sunsets that are happening on the Earth at any given time is what is projected onto the moon, which is kind of a cool thought during these total eclipses. And it's not just a total eclipse. Anytime you have a full lunar eclipse, you have a full moon going on. And so let's talk about this month's full moon. Might as well. This month's full moon, I think it's a fun one. The name of it, a lot of our moons tend to have names, whether it's from Native American culture or other sources. It kind of helps to talk about, what season we're in when we're talking about full moons. And so this month's full moon for March is called the worm moon, because this is when the soil starts to thaw and worms and other creatures start to move within the soil and they start to emerge. And so the worm moon officially was full at 5:37 this morning. Of course, that total lunar eclipse was at max totality at 5:33. And moonrise happened moonset already happened. It happened at 7:06 this morning. And then moonrise, if you still want to see today's full moon, it was officially full moon this morning, but we'll still call it a full moon in the evening. Moonrise will happen at 6:50, so you can see it nice and bright again, if the weather will allow. Again, we do have some clouds, and this morning we're still dealing with the fog too. So, it's been a fun morning to talk about this kind of stuff, and I'm just glad that the weather for the most part, cooperated. I know it didn't for everyone. So here's a look outside for some of our sky cams. You can see that the tri-level in Fargo, looking blue skies, sunny skies right now. There are some places still contending with some fog. Let's take a look around. You can see Glenfield area. That's an area that's a bit murky. New Rockford's been on the foggy side, though the foreground's looking a little better in this shot. Devil's Lake still on the foggy side. Beltrami, Minnesota, we've had some fog in this area too. So watching these areas, let's pull up here for a few minutes our road conditions and our road maps, because we can take a look and see where we've got some other areas where we're seeing some reduced visibility. And let's see here. So you can see some light blue on the map. That's indicating some frost or patchy frost because of the fog. So over by Valley City, up toward Hillsborough as well. I'll zoom out a little more. That's about the areas where we're seeing that at the moment. I'm going to turn on my layers and turn on my cameras. Let's check out the Buffalo cam. That one, again, this is in Cass County. This one looking murky. Let's take a look at the Buxton cam. This actually looks a little bit better, but you can still see the fog. Looks like it's a bit frosty on some of our trees as well. And in Valley City, not too bad in this shot, but in this area, you can see it's looking a bit murky westbound. And just on the gray, kind of gloomy side there. So looking a lot different if you're heading down I-94 in Valley City as compared to, let me see if I can pull up our Castleton camera. Maybe I need to zoom in a little more. There we go. Castleton is looking foggy too. So big difference between what we just saw on our camera. Let me see what this W means. Actually now in West Fargo starting to see some fog there. And then on 9th Street, Veterans, it's looking okay on 42nd. So it's interesting how that fog is rolling in. Pretty much on the western part of the metro. This is I-94 in West Fargo on Main. And that, let's take a look at the timeline here, 10:13. And let me make sure the other cameras are up to date that are a little bit farther east. 10:06. So this is, you know, about 7 minutes behind the other one, but not that far behind. 10:10, yeah. So the fog's right on the edge of the metro, essentially. And I'm seeing this W, a warning. Okay, crews are just out working on a median, just so you guys know if you're traveling in that direction. I was wondering if there might have been a crash there. I'm glad we don't have anything like that going on at the moment. But anywhere we have frost, that's where, you know, roads could be a bit slick for any traveling you're doing. So heads up FM area, we may be seeing this fog rolling in here pretty soon. So want to be prepared for that. And that's, again, we've got this front kind of dropping in, slowly drifting into the valley. And we've got some new alerts. You can see a couple of counties here highlighted. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's take a look at our cameras. And the Halstead camera has been showing some fog. Here we go. Yeah, looking foggy. This is not in Halstead. This is just, Halstead's the nearest community. This is along Highway 200. You can see where the camera is. We'll zoom in. Sorry, I'm all over the place. So here's the camera here on Highway 200. Here's Halstead, Hendrum's right there. And let's check out Monoman. Doesn't look too bad in Monoman right now. I know we've had some fog up by Crookston, so the Beltrami, we did look at the Beltrami camera just a little bit ago. Let's try Foston or Lyngby area. Doesn't look too bad there. So again, it's spotty. Lake Park. Looks like we've got some blue sky there. So just be prepared that some of these places do have some fog. And I'm seeing here on Highway 75 that there's some ice reported on the road there. Oh, looks like our monitor went out for a second there. Should be coming back. There we go. So yeah, that's looking interesting here. So we'll continue to monitor the fog situation too as we are working our way through the morning here. I do want to point out that I do have our Facebook Live on. So if you want to, this is a little bit behind, but if you want to ask a question or anything, feel free to do so here this morning. We'll refresh this, see if we've had any questions come through. It doesn't look like it yet. But yeah, you can always ask questions as well. So let's get back to the reports coming in. Again, there are areas where we have fog, and we have some new things that have come up. Looks like we did have a special weather statement. Looks like that's been removed since I set this up, so I'm going to clear that away. We do have a dense fog advisory that's in effect now. That was just issued just before 10 until noon today. It's been extended into the FM area. And again, we were just seeing that fog on the Fargo-Moorhead area doorstep. West Fargo is starting to see it roll in. And then other places are seeing it north and west of there too. So a couple of counties in Minnesota, including Norman and the Clay County area, and then down through Jamestown, Valley City, now Fargo and Castleton, and then up through Devil's Lake is where we have that fog still affecting us, and that dense fog advisory is still in effect until noon. So here's a look at our visibility reports. You can see areas at 0. That includes Harvey, Carrington, Cooperstown, near 0 visibility. Jamestown's at a half mile, Devil's Lake, quarter mile, and Grand Forks, we've been struggling with fog there at a half mile. Thief River Falls is checking in at a quarter mile visibility as well. So I'm going to pull up our cameras, our sky cams, to show you how things are looking in Grand Forks on our camera with UND. The UND Atmospheric Sciences camera. It does look a bit murky in the distance, and it looks like we've got some frost on the trees here in this shot. So again, this is an area that's been foggy, and the airport is west, the direction we're looking on this camera. And then let's see here. I'm just going to check in on our Dakota Magic Casino sky cam. This one can take a minute to load. And unfortunately, our Red River Valley Fairgrounds camera, not available right now, but the Dakota Magic Casino one has been the one that's been clear. Down by that area, we're looking pretty good as far as visibility reports are concerned. But I have been keeping an eye on that region too, just in case we see some fog moving in. It does look a little bit hazy. Here's a look at that camera now. A little bit hazy, but overall, still looking like some blue sky there. So let's move along. We're going to take a look at the situation on our radar and satellite map. You can see that we've got some areas of a few clouds, some areas where we have some fog, and then there's places where we've got some blue skies too here this morning. So it's going to be, kind of varying type of weather for many places. Some spots are beautiful blue sky, others under some overcast skies, other places again seeing that fog. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more here, and I'm going to clear that away. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. You can actually see the fog rolling into West Fargo right now. So we're looking at some fog on the doorstep of the FM metro area. So if that continues to spread south and east, that may take over the metro for a time before we see some improvement happening here. I think there's a couple of things going on. We've got the fog rolling in, but at the same time, we've got the sun and temperatures that are rising too that might help to combat that a little bit too. So let's take a look at our temperatures. A big difference from north to south. We've got 10 degrees right now in Langdon and in Rolla, so pretty chilly there. And then Sisseton is at 42 degrees, so a 30+ degree difference between the Northern Valley and the Southern Valley. And what's happening is we've got kind of a boundary here, and you can see right where it is. I'm going to draw it kind of rudimentary here. That's not the prettiest line you've ever seen, but you can see that that's essentially where we have this boundary in place, and it's been kind of trying to drift southward. And so, that's right along that boundary is where we have a lot of that fog formation. And so if it continues to drift southward, it may bring that potential for fog with it a little bit farther south before it starts to improve. Behind the boundary, it is drier air, so it starts to clear up a little bit in some of those locations as well here. So like places like Langdon are, overcast, but visibility is better there right now than in places like again, the Hallstatt area back over toward Valley City, those spots where the fog is trying to push in. So that's what I'm watching right now, is keeping an eye out for the fog. Temperatures are near freezing, so there could be some frost on some of the roads. Wind chill is something to factor in too. Not really a problem in the south, but where we've dropped down, where we're only at 10 degrees and there's some wind, it feels like we're below zero in places like Cavalier, Langdon, and Rolla. And Grand Forks, it only feels like 2 right now. So make sure you're dressing for that. And then winds are more northerly in the areas where we've seen that boundary drop in. So even Fargo has now seen a northerly wind start to take over. Grand Forks is at 12. And then south of the boundary, we've got these winds that are out of the south. So here's a look at our planner for today. We'll see the clouds hanging around for some spots. Other places, it's maybe more just high clouds or even a little fog that'll eventually lift. In some spots, we might see that fog hold on a little bit longer. Again, that fog advisory has been extended. Not a lot of wind going on today, so there's not like a sudden wind that's going to help to clear away things, clear away the fog rather. So we're kind of at the mercy of this boundary that's hanging around. And notice again, the temperatures this afternoon will be around 20 up by Langdon, and then in the Southern Valley, more likely into the 40s in places in the far south especially. And areas where we have some clouds, other places where we're enjoying some sunshine. Moving on into tonight, we may see that fog develop right over again. You can see that hanging around into the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. We've got some warmer air once again taking over for the day tomorrow. This is noon, already in the 40s at noon, and then moving on, you can see getting into the 40s to near 50 in southeastern North Dakota. So, we have 50 in the forecast, but that doesn't mean it's going to hit 50 where you are. Just want to make sure we stress that. North especially going to be a lot cooler tomorrow than the south yet again. So that's kind of the situation. Not a lot of moisture here. There could be a few flakes under the clouds today. A little bit of mist out there too. But as far as, major events going on, not a lot of that happening here today. Let's take a look at what's coming up for later this week. We're going to talk about our potential for precipitation. This is our hour-by-hour planner for Friday. You can see some green turning to pink, turning to blue. And I wish I would have put some pause points on this, and I did not. So we'll play that again for you here in just a moment. I'm just going to take a quick look and see what kind of current conditions we're getting reported in addition to our temperatures. And yeah, Fargo, the airport's now reporting some fog and mist. Devil's Lake reporting some freezing fog. Jamestown as well, fog and mist in Foston and Grand Forks. So yeah, some kind of gray skies in those areas. Okay, I'm going to go back and then we're going to move ahead again. So you can see the timeline on this starts on Thursday evening, it goes through Friday night and into early Saturday. So here we go. Friday morning, we start with some rain showers. The pink is that freezing rain possibility changing over to snow Friday night that could linger into Saturday morning. This is one model. Another model isn't as aggressive. That was the American model. The European model, the latest run of it, isn't as aggressive and it's not as far north. And what that would mean, if I can get out of the way a little bit here, what that would mean is more parts of the Southern Valley, Lakes Country, would be under the threat for some freezing rain or mix and or snow. This is the more aggressive model. This is the GFS, the American model. And so I just wanted to show you that just because, the worst case scenario essentially, so that it's a possibility, though it's not a guarantee that this is exactly what we're going to see. So I just want to stress that right now. And as we get a little bit closer, we're still 3.5 days out essentially. We're looking at models not necessarily in agreement on location, the track of the precip. What they are in agreement on is that there's going to be a system moving through that has the potential to bring a mixed bag of precipitation to the region, and that could affect us here in the valley. So again, this is Saturday morning, possibly seeing snow Saturday morning. I do want to show you my biggest concern for Friday is ice potential as our temperatures are dropping. We're looking at the possibility for a light glaze of ice possibly into Friday, and I've ended this accumulation through into Saturday morning. You can see a lot of areas have that possibility in this light pink color, which is less than a tenth of inch, which would be a very light amount, but still, that's enough to create light coating on cold surfaces. And then there's a possibility of seeing a tenth of an inch or more in a couple of pockets. This is the American model. I'll show you the snow on the American model. We're not getting into amounts right now. I just want to show you the huge difference between the American and the European model right now. The American models bring in heavy amounts of precip for some areas, but check out the European model. This one, again, not as aggressive with the snow amounts, and it's also not as putting the valley as much in a bullseye. And you can see snow amounts in that 1 to 3 range possibly, in addition to any freezing rain that we see. So, and that should not say Tuesday, Thursday. That should say Thursday through Friday and into Saturday morning. Sorry, guys. I was throwing this together really quick after all of the eclipse stuff going on, but wanted to show you the 2 different models here. So again, we're still eyeing this, still keeping an eye out for the potential for some measurable snow, still watching out for the possibility for some ice in the mix as well. Leading up to it, pretty mild in the Southern Valley at least. You can see some 30s today in Fargo. Wednesday, Thursday, 40s to near 50. For Fargo, again, might not quite get there in the Northern Valley. And I think most places will stay under 50, but there is still that possibility. And looking a little more breezy tomorrow as well with that. And then as we head into Friday, watching for that potential for some freezing rain, switching over to a mix, switching over to some snow Friday night, and eventually clearing on Saturday. And you can see our temperatures changing on Friday, getting colder through the day. This weekend, it begins, love it or hate it, daylight saving time is starting up overnight Saturday night into early Sunday. We'll talk more about that as it gets closer, but we'll be shifting. We're not saving any daylight when it comes to daylight saving time. It's kind of a misnomer there, but we're shifting it essentially. So we're taking daylight from the morning and shifting it to the evening. So our sunrises will be later and our sunsets will be later. And we, if you remember, spring ahead, fall back. So for spring, we're springing ahead. So we're losing an hour of sleep heading into Saturday night and into Sunday. But temperatures feel very spring-like this weekend, 40s to even near 50 coming up. That slight chance for precip on Sunday. And then next week, we kind of, get back to reality and what we can see in March, colder temperatures. Average highs are in the upper 20s to around 30 for this time frame. So, we're right there, maybe slightly below average next week if this forecast holds. So, looking at some very mild days ahead, still some potential for some 40s, even a 50 degree temperature coming up here, heading into several days through the weekend. So that was a lot. We talked about a lot here. So again, if you've got some full moon pics, if you've got some total eclipse pics or partial eclipse pics from this morning, we are taking them in. We'd love to see them. You can upload those to our website. Let me show you how to do that here really quick. So this is, let's see here. Okay. Just one moment, guys. Here we go. So this is our website, and just head to, again, if you scroll down, there's an option to upload your pictures here. If you want to look at our maps, there's also in one of our photos here, you can upload your photos there. So if you click on that image, here's our gallery and all of the pictures that have been coming into our gallery, our weather pictures. And if you want to upload, all you have to go is add media and upload files right here. And it's really simple. So we've got some pictures here, some screenshots from some of our lives that we do for our Valley News Now digital desk. But you can just open up your files and upload those, and then they're part of the gallery that everybody's sharing in here. So really appreciate it when you guys do that, and then we can share in the experience, especially for those of us who didn't quite get the chance to see the eclipse this morning. Sorry about that, guys. I wish we could have all been able to see it. I'm just really glad some of us were able to. I am going to just pull up our Facebook page and see if we have any questions really quick. And yeah, I'm not seeing any questions, but I really appreciate all of you viewers who have been watching here this morning. And, of course, we'll continue to update you on, what we've seen, what we're going to be expecting as far as fog for tonight. And we'll be tracking today's fog heading into this afternoon. You could always check that out on Valley News Now later this afternoon for another weather update. And then, tomorrow we'll be tracking the fog in the morning hours. And, of course, if you've got travel plans, something going on for Friday, check back with us with this next system that's coming our way. We're keeping a close eye on that for the potential for that mix, for some snow. Though, again, as you saw in those two different models I showed you, vastly different, which means that we're not ready to put out a forecast for amounts on that just yet. We don't have a lot of agreement in our guidance at this point in time. But it is a system moving through, bringing a chance for some wintry precip on Friday and a change in our temperatures briefly before we're warming right back up heading into the weekend. So I hope you're having a great day. If you got up early to take in the eclipse, maybe drink that extra cup of coffee to stay awake here heading into the afternoon, or maybe take a nap if you can. I think it was worth it. It was definitely worth to see the total lunar eclipse this morning. So hope you have a great day. I'll leave you with that video that our awesome, here we go, our awesome morning crew got this morning of the eclipse from South Fargo. It's just great to see. And next eclipse, I believe, comes in a couple of years. Let me just look this up for you here really quick. Let's see. Eclipses. Total, I'm looking for my next total lunar eclipse. Okay, for Fargo, I'm seeing, according to the site I'm looking at, not until 2029, it looks like. So a few years we'll have to wait for that next chance. And I'm just checking to make sure, see if I'm not missing anything here. Our next partial solar eclipse, very partial, is in August of 2026. That's going to be more visible in places like Iceland and Spain coming up here later this August. Partial lunar eclipse comes a little bit later this year. August 27th and 29th, we'll have a partial lunar eclipse. Yeah, next total lunar eclipse, it says June 26, 2029. Okay, so if you stuck around for that, if I haven't lost you, now you know. We are going to be waiting on that total lunar eclipse for Fargo at that point. The next total lunar eclipse, it looks like, for the world is in 2028. So I'll have to wait a little bit to see that. And that total eclipse won't happen here. We'll see a partial eclipse then. Okay, we're going to let you go now. And we'll be back again tomorrow morning with another update at 10 a.m. on the weather and interesting things going on in the sky as well. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day and you had a great morning. And watch out for that fog right now. It's still affecting some areas, including in the FM metro area as it's starting to creep in. This has been your weather update brought to you by 1-800 Water Damage of North Dakota. And again, we'll see you here tomorrow at 10.
There's no such thing as a small disaster. So when you call 1-800 Water Damage of North Dakota, we come prepared to restore your life back to normal. From burst pipes to unexpected mold discoveries or fire damage, when things couldn't be worse, we come to you with our best. With empathy, local expertise, and a truck full of seriously powerful equipment. 1-800 Water Damage of North Dakota. Restoring what matters most. 701-670-2022.